What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's Maverick here today with another episode of Isekai Meikyuu de Harem. And yes, it is late for a day. I had stuff to do yesterday, but you know, that it is what it is, right? Which was a little bit it was a little bit disappointing because I know that this episode in particular probably is going to excite and please a lot of people, right? I know what's gonna happen here. I've said before, I've read through the series already, right? I know what's gonna happen in this episode. It's gonna get a lot of people excited, I would presume. Even though, you know, I've said numerous times before, it's not necessarily the main watching point of this particular work, but it is a nice little dessert, if you will. In any case, last episode, Michio and Roxanne, they got their house, they got their home. Now they can do some things to decorate it and, you know, make it a home, right? Make it their home. And of course, that includes some other things like installing some certain modern conveniences. In any case, let's just jump directly into the episode. All right, let's begin in 3, 2, 1. Play. Oh, good morning, kiss. But he doesn't, though. Huh, they're actually showing a lot more than I was expecting here in this censored version. Yeah, he's a discipline, right? In fact, I would even say maybe a little bit formulaic in sometimes like I'm pretty far into the series, right? And he's pretty much has his life set, you know. This is his schedule for a day. By the way, I don't. Are they supposed to mention it here yet? What the heck? It's not that important. So one thing that is quite, I guess, a little interesting tidbit of information about Roxanne is she always manages to wake up before Michio in order to give him his, you know, good morning kiss. In a way, you could also say, you know, that reflects on the devotion that Roxanne has, right? Which is one of her primary characteristics, right? Now, some people might argue that her personality is bland or something like that, but, you know, honestly, that is her personality. This sort of, like, you know, this sort of servicing person, right? Once again, it's kind of like an MMORPG vibe, right? You know, you're at the entrance to a dungeon or an instance or whatever, and there's like tons of people just there. See, that would never work in an actual MMORPG. You know, they would probably have to gate it artificially. Because, what can I say? Gamers are resilient. Unless you do some sort of like procedural generated kind of dungeon or whatnot. I mean, obviously that's just speculation, but to me, like, part of the draw of this series is in how much it's very gamified, right? The gamification aspect of this is utilized throughout, rather than just as a crutch for the opening few episodes. Yeah, I would say that's kind of sarcastic. Look kind of strong. By the way, what's the difference between goblins and kobolds? I never actually tried to look it up and make out that distinction, right? Are they supposed to be the same thing? Probably not, right? Otherwise you would just call it goblin. And home sweet home. You know, being from a, I've always been like well, I wouldn't really say city boy, but I've never really worked in the fields or whatnot. Are seeds supposed to be like expensive? Well, I guess this is more of like a medieval kind of world, so maybe it's, the the value of it is a little bit different from the modern world. I mean, obviously, if it's for actual like agricultural crops, for those large farms, I can understand you would want genetically modified seeds and all that, right? And those cost money. But for it's just for growing some herbs and whatnot. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, even in most MMORPGs, they're like barely worth any money, if any at that. Oh. And that's the focus of this episode. We could say that Michio is messing around and not really doing anything significant. But on the other hand, you can also make the argument that this guy has his priorities straight. such a gamified world. Like, can you imagine like dropping loot, actually changing into loot. It's not like you search their bodies or you skin their, take their bones or skin them or anything. They just disappear and poof, an item just appears. It's just so funny to me. Jakaniku? Oh. I mean, it still looks like meat and potatoes, so... And thus starts Michio's foray into eventually trying to become the best chef in this world. Was there a time skip here? Let me think a little bit. I honestly can't remember. A very European style of eating, right? What is this background music? Like, what? Music director, your music choice needs some... needs some work. I mean, try like 20, 30 levels down. I don't quite remember this, actually. Ah, okay, okay. Yeah. it just kind of adds to like his already pretty cautious nature. But I do, like I keep on saying, it's relatable, right? Like if you were dropped into a world like that, you would also want to take precautions as well. That's the smart thing to do. Like that's got to be heavy as hell. A man's determination to take a bath with a girl. Priorities. Yeah, so if it wasn't, obvious, right? Actually, I think they talked about this before in like previous episodes, right? This world doesn't really have a custom or habit of taking baths because it's not exactly something that they can do. So only nobles do it. So what Michio is doing here is considered very luxurious in this world. And then for Roxanne, obviously, with her status as a slave, this is definitely something that she would not really be allowed to take part in. I don't, obviously, it's I haven't commented on this at this point yet, but if I'm being completely honest here, Roxanne's assets are a little bit too big for me. Like it's kind of like a little bit too unrealistic. Well, there's another girl later on that actually even surpasses this. So Good excuse. Good excuse. It's more of a soapland tradition, but... In all honesty, Roxanne is not as not as well. Actually, that's not fair. I think it's hard to say, right? Because on one hand, Roxanne's personality is that of being very how can I say this? Very pure and innocent, like disregarding what she's doing right now, right? You can argue that her personality is very cute and innocent. So she's doing all of this because she truly is just, fully devoted to Michio, and she doesn't really, she doesn't. To her, it's just like some way of serving him, right? Because it makes him happy. However, personally, my stance on Roxanne has always been she's not as innocent and unknowing of things as she might give off. Like, I feel like some of the things she's doing are definitely on purpose. See. Right, like, on one hand, we know her personality is very cute, innocent, caring, devoted, and all that, right? But I still maintain she's a little succubus. She fully knows what she's doing here. Alright, see you guys after this. Alright, so that was episode 9, and once again, like, there's not really... I mean, the focal point of this episode really speaks for itself, right? I don't think I really need to comment too much on that. But again, like I was saying throughout the episode, I think one thing which I feel like is an interesting... It has no bearing whatsoever with the story, and probably no bearing whatsoever in future events and whatnot. But it's always been in the back of my mind that Roxanne is not really, even though obviously her character setting is that of being very caring and innocent and cute and all that, I still keep on maintaining that she has a little, mischievous and plotting side to her as well. Obviously not in the bad way, but like I said, she's sort of like a little succubus and things like that. She obviously know what Michio likes, and she's if you understand that Roxanne actually has a very, very high affection towards Michio, a lot of this kind of like falls into place and makes sense, right? On Michio's side, he's kind of like he's always sort of like thinking out loud, like to his own monologue, and to allow us readers to understand his situation. He's always playing it off like, okay, he wants to take advantage of Roxanne, and so he's always teaching her some not so quite accurate stuff, right, in order to get himself into these situations, right? Like teaching Roxanne that, hey, this is actually a custom that close people do, and you can wash your bodies like this and whatnot, when this is obviously much more of a soapline kind of thing, right? I mean, obviously couples can do that as well, but doing that is mostly more of a play, if you will, on that. But you could argue that Roxanne, because being naive and whatnot, was tricked or duped by Michio. But on the other hand, I have a sneaking suspicion that she fully knows what Michio was doing, and so she's just taking advantage of that as well, right? And especially with that last line there. I haven't washed her lips yet, so to me, it's quite. I keep on maintaining that Roxanne is much more smarter and much more in the know than is portrayed here, or is officially portrayed either in what we see or in Michio's mind. It actually does kind of sort of get infuriating or frustrating in the future, where we clearly know, like, sometimes when Michio is going off on a tangent in order to try to justify his actions and whatnot, trying to do some more erotic things, and still having to sort of hide it at the same time. Like, it does become frustrating at a certain point, right? Like, because it's, for one, those are your slaves, right? And you're gonna do it anyway, so why not just man up about it and be frank with it in the first place, right? And then the second part is because, eventually all of his slaves are really fully devoted to him, and especially more so with Roxanne, right? So sometimes I'm just like, Michio, shut up, just go and do it. But I'm not quite sure, like, if we're going to be seeing any of that in the, in the next few episodes, but it has been a thought that crossed my mind many times while I was reading the manga and light novels of this. So just a little heads up, I guess you could say. Beyond that, I guess the biggest, I mean, like, obviously they do, they move into the house, they go to Labyrinth, and, explore some more, go down. Obviously, with Labyrinth being in the anime title, they're supposed to continue to go up or go down, right? Do they ever reach the end? I don't know. The part that I read to has not really gone that far yet, in all honesty. Like I said before, this is a pretty slow series, all things considered. So that is that. I guess, and so I'm not going to talk too much about the Labyrinth situation and all that. We haven't really gotten to the places where, it's still relatively simple for now, right? Like, think about it. If you are in an RPG, an MMORPG, and you know that this is a dungeon that has 90 or so levels, I mean, the first few levels are definitely just a throwaway, right? You can just do whatever the heck you want, and it's only later on when we start to get variations and whatnot, we get spells, we get tactics, and that is when the fun actually begins. So I'm not going to comment too much on that. The bath scene, like I said, everybody can just enjoy it. I will say, though, that I've always, like, since watching that scene for the first time, I've always wondered to myself, there has to be, like, a more efficient way of doing this entire thing of heating up the bath and whatnot. I haven't really figured out what is the more efficient way, but I just find it really a big waste of time when Michio needs to spend so much time to heat up the water just in order to take one bath, right? There definitely has to be a better way of doing all of this. In fact, I would say, like, if he was really smart and went about this in a smart way, they could actually make one of those traditional baths in the that actually traditional Japanese use, right? You have an elevated platform and you sort of have like a furnace underneath it where you can just continue to obviously you would need to get fuel, right? But with Michio having teleportation abilities and having sword skills, I feel like getting firewood or something flammable should not be that hard to do, right? And then after that, you can just get the fire going and allow it to heat the bath, right? And it's even reusable. I feel like that would probably be much more efficient than here trying to use water wall and then trying to use fireball to heat up the water. But I guess it's a way to show off the magic. I mean, Michio isn't exactly supposed to be like a genius, right? He's definitely no Dr. Stone, or the character from there. So again, that's kind of on tangent. It's completely, like, not all that important, all things considered, but it's just something that I've always kind of, like, bugged me since the first time I saw this scene, and this is definitely not the only time that they're going to be taking a bath, right? They're going to be taking many baths in the future, and this is something that I've always thought of. So yeah, and speaking of many baths in the future, so the episode ending, we kind of foreshadowed we need another frontline, another frontline member, right? So, hey, next episode is episode 10, so it did kind of, like, fall into what I was saying. We're probably going to get the final character, or at least the introduction to, not the final character, sorry, the second character, the second slave, the second harem member, if you will, near, like, episode 10 or 11 here. So judging by this pacing, I would presume that we're probably going to end this season, if there is a second, this particular series, probably just right after we get to the second member, right? Which I guess kinda sorta makes sense, but not really. I'm just thinking right now. I think they probably should at least show her first time with Michio as well. You know, just as you're already doing all of this, you might as well show a little bit more. I'm sure fans are dying to see someone else other than Roxana and Michio going at it, right? They want to have the second party member as well, which, yeah, if we're going with that, I would definitely bet more money on them actually getting to know the second member and partaking in nightly activities, if you will. But in any case, once again, I'm not quite sure. Like, my memory is already quite fuzzy from when I read this series a long time ago. But since he mentioned it here, I'm presuming that in the next episode he starts out in search of the second party member and starts to try and do some things with her and so on and so forth. So we have that to look forward to. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys. I will see you guys next time. Stay tuned and bye bye.